I've started the recording. So have you guys any question from the last class? Let's start from friend function and friend classes. Have you guys any questions regarding that? Okay, that's very good. Okay, the second thing we studied was the argument of the copy constructor. Have you guys any question regarding what is a copy constructor, when is it called, and what is the argument of the copy constructor? Why does it need to be a reference, and why do we make it a const reference? Think of any questions you may have, and I'll read this Ashal's question. How to make a function friend of two classes? Is that not possible? No, it's not possible. Sorry, it is possible. You can declare it a friend in both the classes, and that function will become the friend of both classes. Okay, friend is just a declaration, a one-line declaration in a class that this thing can access its private member variables. So the function that you want to make friend of two classes, you just declare it as a friend in both the classes, and that's it is. Okay. You can make it a friend of as many classes as you want. Okay, so if so that's done. Any questions regarding copy constructor or its arguments? Okay, so I hope this lack of response is not hesitation on your part, and you guys have, yeah, declaration is the prototype, yes. So you declare it a friend in both the classes, and that's it. So I was saying that I hope you guys have understood why do we need a copy constructor, when is a copy constructor called, in under what circumstances, and why do we need to make the argument of the copy constructor a reference, and why do we make it a const reference. Okay. So if that's good, then let us come to today's topic. I think in last semester, you guys have or had studied overloaded functions. Can somebody remind me what was the concept of an overloaded function? Yes, so basically you have two functions or two or more functions with the same name, okay? But they have a difference in their arguments. It can be in the number of arguments, or it can be in the type of arguments. So basically you can have the function with same name but with different arguments, and then when you call that function, the compiler will decide which implementation to call based on the arguments that you will provide to that function when calling that function. Okay? So let's say you have a function sorry, called add, and you have defined one add function with two arguments of type int, and another add function with two arguments of type float, and a third add function with three arguments, two of type int and third of type float. Okay? So you will have, of course, different definition for all three of these functions. Okay, so body of the functions will be different, and when you call an add function in your program, you will be giving some arguments. Okay, so you can give it either two integer arguments, two float arguments, or even three arguments. So the compiler will decide which implementation of that function to call based on the number and type of arguments that you have provided to that function when calling that function. So if you had provided to that function 3 arguments, it will call the 3 argument implementation of add. If you had provided 2 float arguments to that function, then the compiler will call the floating point implementation, the implementation which had 2 float arguments for that function call. And the third possibility that if you had provided 2 integer arguments, then it will call the implementation of add function which had 2 integer arguments. So overload means, the term overload when you put too much load on something. So here the term overloaded is used in terms of the meaning or the functionality of that function. So what does it mean to add 2 numbers or 3 numbers? What does add mean? So add has 3 meanings in our current example. There's one meaning for add, which is basically the implementation or the body of the function which takes 2 arguments. Add also has second meaning, which has the implementation that takes 2 float arguments. And add also has a third meaning, which is the implementation with 3 arguments. Okay. So we have overloaded the meaning of add in our program. Okay, so that's where the term overload comes from. So just like you can have overloaded functions in your C++ language. Similarly, you have overloaded operators on in C++. So what are operators? Operators are also, they perform a function. Just like we had an add function which added 2 integers. Similarly, we have an add operator. Okay? And add operator also, you guys know that it's the plus sign. It's a binary operator. It takes 2 arguments. Okay? One which we put to the left of the add symbol, and the other that we put to the right of the add symbol. Okay? So what the add operator will do, it will basically perform a functionality that it will add the left and the right argument and give you a result in their place, the sum. Similarly, you have the subtraction operator, multiply, divide, modulus, all these operators that you have, they are also performing some functionality. And I don't know if you guys have observed or not, these operators are also overloaded, which means depending on the arguments that we give them, they perform different operations. So the add, the plus operator, it can have 2 arguments. Those arguments can be of type integer. The left and right both can be of type integer, and they can also be of type float. Okay? You can have 1 float, 1 integer. You can have 1 integer, 1 character. Okay. So depending on what type of argument you give them, this plus operation, the plus operator, it will perform the addition differently. Okay, so you guys know from your primary secondary education that the whole numbers, which we call integers in our C++ language, their addition is performed differently compared to the decimal number, which we call floating point numbers in C++. Okay? Because the floating points have the point. So you have to take care of that point when you are adding or adding those numbers. Okay? So the plus operator, we can say that its meaning has already been overloaded by the C++ language for built-in types. So just like we had an example of adding integers or adding floats, it will perform the correct addition based on the type of arguments that we give to the plus operator. And similarly, if you remember, you had the division operator. The division operator, it can basically take integer as operands, the divisor and what's it called, the quotient, I think. No, dividend and divisor. So it can have integers as both dividend and divisor, or it can have floating points as dividend and divisor, and also it can have 1 integer, 1 floating point, or whatever type you give it. So again, its meaning has been overloaded. And here we see the difference more clearly, that if you take, two integers as operands of the sorry, divide operator. If the divisor and the dividend both are integers, the result is also an integer. Okay, the result is a rounded value. Right? You guys had experienced this in the lab, I think, in last semester. Similarly, if we give both operands as floating points, the divisor and the dividend both are decimal values, floating points, then the result is not a whole number. Right? So the result is a decimal value or a floating point number. In the integer division case, the result will always be a whole number, even when the real result is not a whole number. Even when the real result is a decimal number, the division operator, it will return you a well-rounded integer, a whole number. So this tells you that the meaning of division operator is different. It divides differently based on the type of arguments that we give to the division operator. Okay, so its meaning has been overloaded for these built-in types by the C++ language by default. Are you guys with me so far? Anybody has any confusions? So far we have just said that the meanings of these basic operators, they are overloaded by default for built-in types. They always perform the correct operation, or the correct implementation will be invoked based on the type of arguments that we give to these operators. And by correct implementation, I mean the implementation that has been defined in the C++ standard. Yes, different languages provide this functionality. Okay, so because based on the argument types, there might be slight differences in the operation to be performed. So to do it correctly, they overload these operators for basic types, the built-in types. Okay, so I hope it's clear to everybody. If there is no question, then we can move forward. Okay, so no question. So okay, so the role of these operators, the functionality of these operators has been overloaded for the built-in types. Okay, but what about what's the need of using overloaded operators? Okay, so the need of using overloaded operators is that you can have the correct functionality based on the arguments given. Let's say if the division, take the example of division operator, integer, they have defined that the correct implementation is that if both arguments are integer, then the result is also an integer. And if both arguments are a floating point, then the result is also a floating point. So they have defined these two correct functionalities. So the thing is, when you give two arguments to the plus operator, how will the compiler decide which implementation should be now invoked? Okay, so it decides based on the type of the number and type of the operators. So here, since two implementations are defined for the division operator, it will see what type of arguments have been provided. If the arguments are integers, then it will invoke the integer implementation to do the integer division. And if both arguments are floating points, then it will basically invoke the floating point implementation and give you a result also as a floating point number. Okay, so that you don't have to manage it yourself. The compiler does it in the background for you. Is it any clearer, Talha? Or did I miss your question? Okay, good. Okay, so now the question arises that this thing, I mean, the overloading has already been done for basic types. Okay? Then what about the types that are user defined that we have made? So let me share my screen with you guys so that you can. Okay, so let us define a class. Let's call this class a fraction. No, let's not fraction. Let's do it. I think complex will be easier to implement. So okay, so I have declared a class to simulate the behavior of complex numbers. Okay, so by default, the C++ language gives you whole numbers, decimal numbers, ASCII characters, etc., etc. So inside the language, you don't have support for complex numbers. Okay, so what we can do is, since C++ allows us to extend a type system by declaring new types, user-defined types, we can declare a new type to simulate the behavior of complex numbers. Right? So here I basically declared a very simple type called myComplex as a class. It has two private members, line 6, line 7, the real and imaginary part. And we are basically storing them both as integers. So we have a constructor that takes two arguments and assign the real and imaginary part, and a function called show, which basically displays the complex number, both its real and imaginary part, in the way that we are used to seeing it in our math books, which is basically real plus imaginary and I. I is for that iota thing that we have in complex number. So let me compile this. Good. For a long time, compilation without any error. So you see, it just basically, I've declared two complex numbers and displayed them. Okay. So is this code clear? Any questions about the code so far? Very good. Okay. So the question arises, let us basically declare a third complex number C3 and 0. For the moment we know it's 0, 0. And what we are going to do is we are going to basically try to C3 is equal to C1 plus C2. Right? So we'll try to add these two numbers. Okay? Complex numbers C1 and C2. You guys have studied in your, I don't know which class, but that the complex numbers, they can be added, multiplied, divided, etc. Okay? And the results are also, I think, complex numbers. So we know, I mean, the mathematics has a theory for how the complex number addition should happen. But the thing is, C++ language does not know. It does not know, I mean, you guys know how addition should happen of a complex number, but C++ has no idea what are complex numbers and how they should be added. See, the mathematical theory for addition of whole numbers, decimal numbers, etc., that has been implemented in the C++ language as built-in types and their operators. But unfortunately, complex numbers are not part of the built-in types. So C++ language has no idea what does it mean to add to complex numbers. Okay? Because since they are user-defined types, user-defined types can be infinite. Okay? I mean, you can imagine anything and you can make a class of that. Yeah, so that will become a new type. So what does it mean to add to C++ creators could not have imagined all the types that the users would invent. Okay? So they just provided some basic functionality and then give you the facility to define your own types. So what does it mean to add two new types? Usually somebody who has created new types, they would have a better idea what should happen when these two new types are added. So let us see what does it say when we try to add these two. Okay. So you have a long list of errors, and as I said, always always start with the first error. Okay? Otherwise, C++ error messages really, I mean, drive you mad if you don't do it properly. Right? So you see, this first line of error messages is telling us no match for operator plus operand types are my complex and my complex. Okay, so we know from this line that it is talking about the operator plus and its operands. Okay, so it's telling you that operand types are my complex and my complex. So what are these operands? No, we know that this plus is a binary operator and it takes two arguments. It takes two arguments and one is on the left hand side and one on the right hand side. So this is what it is telling you, that both operands, the left hand side as well the right hand side, they are my complex, okay? Because they are C1 and C2. It's also given you this line. So both are basically left and right are my complex. And the C++ compiler does not know that what should an operator plus do for these two types. Okay? No match for operator plus. For integers and floating points, operator plus is already defined. But for my complex, it is not defined. So therefore it gave us an error. So what can we do to basically solve this problem? One solution can be that we can have a separate function called, by the way, what is the result of adding two complex numbers? Is it an integer, a floating point, or a complex number? A complex number, okay, good. So if I remember correctly, I think it should be that the real part of one should be added with the real part of the second, and the imaginary part of one should be added, sorry, added to imaginary part of the second, and this would give us the real and imaginary parts of the result respectively. Right? Good. So how can we basically solve this problem? There can be a couple of ways. So one is that we can have a function called add complex. It basically receives two complex numbers as arguments, and it will basically add those two complex numbers that we pass it as an argument. Okay, so we will not use the operator, but we would rather use a function. So what should be the return type of this function? Let me put a line number. On line number 19, what should be the return type of this function? Because what kind of result are we expecting from this function? My complex. Okay. What do we have to more than two complex? Oh, we'll tackle this question in this class. Okay, later. So for the moment, adding two complex numbers should produce the result also as a complex number. So this function should give us a complex number, which should be the sum of the two complex numbers. So its return type should also be of complex, my complex. Good. Okay. So since it is going to add the real and imaginary parts, so it needs access to the real and imaginary parts of those two functions, the objects a and b. So what we can do is we can basically declare this function a friend to make things simple. We'll later see how we can have a better solution, but for the moment, let's declare this function as a friend of class complex, okay, so that it can access the private member parts of my complex class. So what it can do is it can basically create a new object, my complex result. What we can do, we can directly initialize it with a dot real plus b dot real. Okay, so this will basically sum the real parts of a and b and would pass it to the constructor of result as the real part. And similarly, a dot imaginary plus b dot imaginary. Here we can return this result. What's it called? Result. And here, what we can do is we can say C3 is equal to add complex C1 and C2. And then what we can do is we can say C3 dot show to see whether we have implemented it correctly or not. Okay. So what we have done is we are defining the addition of two complex numbers, and we are doing it with the help of a function. So we have named this function on line number 22 as add complex. It takes the two objects of type complex to add two complex numbers, and basically it will what will it do? It will, like line number 24 is telling you that it will take the real parts of both a and b objects, add them, and then take the imaginary parts of both objects, add them, and then it will initialize a new complex number called result with the sum of these real and imaginary parts of a and b as the values for this new object result, and then it returns the result. So this result will be received in C3 on line number 36, and when we do C3 dot show, hopefully we'll get the correct result. So let me compile it again. Okay, my complex. Okay, we have mistyped. It's called complex. What's it called, this file? my complex. Hopefully there won't be more. There are. But I just corrected this. My complex has not been declared. Okay. This is good. Yep. And we go. You see. So A and B were 2 plus 3i and 4 plus 5i. Sorry, C1 and C2. And we add them. C3 is basically 6 plus 8i, which is the sum of these two complex numbers. Okay, so this way we can make our own functions to add, basically add complex numbers, multiply complex numbers, subtract complex number, divide complex number, whatever operations we want to do, we can make functions for them to implement those functionality, and then we can use those functionality by calling those functions inside our program. So for this question, what if we have to add more than two complex numbers? I'm afraid it is basically the same. And right now, what we can do is we can basically, yes. So let's say if we want to add three complex numbers. So we basically go here, C4. So what we can do is we have C3.show and then we go. So C4 basically will be a sum of C1, C2 and the C3. Okay? So what we do is we can add C3 and the result of addition of C1 and C2. Okay? So this is one. Okay. So on line number 39, C4 is basically this add complex function will be called to generate C4. And what it will do is it will take C3. C3 has been basically calculated here. So it will take C3, and since we want to do C1 plus C2 plus C3, so it will basically take the result of the addition of C1 and C2. Okay? So we are calling add complex again on C1 and C2 to get their sum, and then that sum will be added to C3. Okay? And since you guys know, sum is basically transitive. I think it's called transitive property, that C1 plus C2 plus C3 is equal to C1 plus C2. Oh, sorry, C3 plus C1 plus C2. So this will give us C4. So let's basically run it. There you go. So we have 6 plus 6, 12, and then 8 plus 8, 16i. So this way we can define our functions, and we can basically have functions for addition, multiplication, whatever. Okay, so is it clear that we can define operations on our built-in types, user-defined types with functions? Okay, good. So has anybody any confusion before I come to Mohammad Fariz's question? No? Okay, good. So now the question is, as Mohammad Farid asked, what if we don't want to, this function syntax is cumbersome, okay? The operator's syntax is much more natural. So how can we define or overload these built-in operators, these basic operators for our new types? So the answer is that yes, C++ lets you overload these built-in operators for your user-defined new types. Okay? So how we can do it? We can basically, yes. So what we can do is we can basically define this operator, the same thing that we have done at complex. We want to do it via this, sorry, this plus operator. So again, we define the implementation of this plus operator, we define it as a function. So what we will do is we will basically, it's called operator and then plus. And then we can basically say that this operator plus will expect two arguments of type my complex A and my complex B. Okay, so there you go. And this my plus operator, it will basically give us a result which will also be a complex number. Okay, so the result will be returned as a return type, and in this case it will also be a complex number. Okay, so this is basically the syntax for overloading an operator for a new type. Instead of it's implemented as a function, overloading is done as a function, and instead of having a function name, we will use the keyword operator followed by the symbol of the operator that we want to overload. So this is basically telling us that we are redefining the functionality of the plus operator for our new types. And then you arrange the number of arguments as well as the return type according to your functionality, what you want to do. Right? So the rest basically is the same. We copy this functionality and paste it here. And then once we have done this, we should now be theoretically be able to do this. I'll come to C4 later, but first try C4. Okay, so this statement line number 41, C1 plus C2. The compiler will basically see that the user has used the plus operator with two types of type my complex. So the compiler will first see, do I have a built-in functionality for the plus operator for my complex type? It will not find any, okay, because it's a new type that we have defined. It does not know what it means, my complex type. So then as a second thing, it will search in user code. In the user code, has the user defined the plus operator functionality for this type my complex? In this case, it will find this implementation. Line number 28, it will see that the user has defined, or the programmer has defined operator plus for my complex type as a function, and this functionality basically the programmer wants to be called or invoked whenever we add two complex numbers using this plus symbol. So then the compiler will say, okay, that's good. So in this place, it will basically call this function on this line number 28, and these two arguments will be passed as function sorry, these two operands, the left and the right operand, they will be passed as function arguments. Okay, so since it's a binary operator, it takes two arguments. So our function also has correspondingly two function arguments. So the left hand operand C1 will be received in A. Okay, so A will receive the left operand and B will receive the right operand, sorry, for this function call C1, so this operator called C1 plus C2. Okay, so B will receive C2 and A will receive C1. Okay. So this function will be called, C1 and C2 will be passed as arguments A and B, and then the functionality will be executed, and whatever code you have written in line number 29, 30, it will be executed. This addition will be done, new result will be created, and this addition operator will be replaced by the result. Okay. So all this highlighted part will be replaced by the result, and then the result, which is a complex number, will be assigned to C3. Okay. Just like it was happening here, the add function call was replaced by the value returned by add, which was a complex number, and then that complex number, the result was assigned to C3. The same thing will happen on line number 41 now. Then C3.show, should show us the correct result normally. My complex real is private. So again, just we are inside this function. Sorry. Inside this function, we are accessing the private members of A and B of complex type. Okay? So this function is not a member function. The operator plus function, it's not a member function. It's a external function. Okay. So if an external function wants to access private member variables, it can only do so if it's a friend of our class. So we declare this function as friend of our class so that it can access private member variables. Okay. So this should, I think, satisfy the compiler. The compiler is happy, and we can run, and you can see that the addition has been performed just like it was done when we had used a function. Okay, so any questions so far? Okay, let me read your chat then. Your screen stucks every few seconds. I hope it's okay, because I basically, I'm not changing my screen every time. So sometimes when I'm talking, I'm not doing anything. So if it's, appearing static, it's normal. But if you find some, lag between what I'm talking or what's happening on the screen, it might be a lag due to internet, or I don't know. So what if the operator plus declaration come after main? Would it give a syntax error? Mohammad Fareh, since we have declared it a friend function and that declaration before the main, so defining it after the main is the same as what happened last time in last class, as you pointed out. The friend declaration would serve as a declaration for that function. But if the function is not a friend and it's after main, then I think you will have to declare it before main, before using it, if you've not declared it as a friend already. So if you make the function friend of class, very good, thank you, I forgot that. Can you make this function at line 28 a friend function? Let me see what was at line 28. Line 28, I think it was a plus operator function. So yes, thank you. I did not, I forgot it, and now we have made it a friend function. So what if we were to add 3 numbers? We can do this with any operator. Yes, you can do it with any operators. Not only these 4. There are lots of operators, like some 20 to 30 operators that you can overload. I'll show you a list. Yes, you can do it for any operators, less than, greater than, equal to, vagara, vagara, everything. Okay. So now coming to Mohammad Fareh's question, can we add 3 complex numbers? Okay. So let us see what will happen if we do it like this. So we have basically C4. So what we want to do is we want C4 is equal to C1 plus C2 plus C3. And then we want to, oops. Okay. Right. So we have done C1 plus C2 plus C3 and C4 dot result we want to store in C4, and then we do C4.show. So let's see what happens. Tada, it works, and you can see from the code that the syntax is much cleaner than this call to my complex. Okay, so if we were to add 4, 5, 6 complex numbers using plus operator, it's much cleaner. It looks cleaner in the code than, for example, if we're using this add complex C5, which should be add complex C4, and then add complex C3, add complex C1, C2, etc., and then we close all the brackets, etc. Okay. So what happened here is that the plus operator, we have used it 2 times. Okay, so let me put line number. So the function on line 29, it will be called twice. So I think the plus operator is associated from right to left, I think. So what will happen is it will first call the plus operator for these 2 arguments or operands, C2, C3, and then their addition will be done by the function operator plus, and the result will replace this highlighted part. So this highlighted part will receive the result of C2 plus C3, which is a complex number. And then this plus operator for this symbol will be invoked. Okay, the function will invoke for this symbol. So this symbol will receive 2 arguments. One is C1, the left hand operand, and for this symbol, the right hand operand will be the result of these 2, the sum of these 2. Okay, the result of the previous call to plus operator. So here, the operator plus function, it will be called twice, and then after the second time it is called for this operator, this one, the result will replace all of this right hand side, and then that result, the final result, will be assigned to C4, and then when we do C4.show, it shows this. So you can chain this plus operator for as long as you want, as long as it is returning the correct type as result. The next call will basically take this result and add it to the left hand operand, and this way it will continue. Yes, plus has only 2 operands, so it will be called twice. No, it's not operator precedence. Operator precedence is something different. When we have 2 or more operators, which one will be called first? Okay? So this one is, we have the same operator. Okay? It's a plus operator. So there is no question of precedence. I think in this case it will be resolved. I think it's called operator associativity. I'll have to look it up. But in any case, either it will start from the left and chain it to the right, or it will start from the right and chain it to the left. So this way, for every operator, it will call this operator plus function. So can you perform any arithmetic operation other than addition? Yes, since you are defining the meaning of addition, for my complex type, you are defining it. So you can basically define it in whatever way you want. Instead of addition, you can do a subtraction if you want inside the function. If you want that addition means subtraction, then you can do any operation inside this function. Okay, it depends on the meaning that you want to define for addition operator. So Alishwa, your question that you can add it like C1 plus C2 plus C3 plus C4 plus C5. Yes, you can chain it as long as you want, given that you have the correct types. But the thing you have to do is that for every plus symbol, a function will be called. This function will be called for every plus symbol. So if in your expression, this chained expression plus symbol is appearing 5 times, then this function will be called 5 times. Okay? And you have to keep in mind that every time this function is called, it will return a result, and that result will be used as an operand of the next call to plus operator. Okay, so it will start from the left and go to right, or I think it starts on the right or go towards left, the plus operator. Okay? So you have to know what is the associativity of this operator. And let me look up the correct term for this thing. Let me see. It's called associativity. So it can be right associative or left associative. So you guys can basically, you have different operators. There's I think this document that I found from Microsoft. You guys can look it up later after the class. It gives you the precedence and the associativity of different operators. You can don't look at it now. You can look at it after the class. So the right term is associativity. Any questions so far? Are you guys with me, or I mean, this silence doesn't look good. No means you are not with me, or do you have no? You don't have any questions. Anybody with any questions, any doubts, any thing you want to ask? Yes, silence of CE30. Okay, good. So I hope you guys are like understanding. Sorry, everything. So usually what happens is that these kind of overloaded operators, this functionality is basically very closely related to the type that we are defining. So what happens is that this kind of functionality, usually it is not implemented as separate external functions, because if you define it separate function, you have to basically give it access to private member variables. So what happens is this kind of functionality here, I hope you guys I mean see it that line number 29 operator plus, it's not a member function of class MyComplex. It's an external function to class MyComplex. Okay? So usually this kind of functionality is implemented as a member function. Okay, so right now we implemented as a non-member function, but this kind of functionality is usually implemented as member function, because the argument is that this functionality is very closely associated with the new type or new class that we have defined. So it makes sense to make this functionality a part of our class, a part of our type. So this kind of functionality is usually implemented as a member function of class that we are going to define. Okay? So here, let me implement it as a member function. So as a member function, we can basically implement this functionality here. But the thing is, when we implement the same functionality as member function, then we give it only one type, one argument. So what happened is, let me rename this function argument as RHS, and so this is a declaration of the function. The definition we can have inside the function or outside the function. So I don't know, do you guys prefer inside or outside? So let me do it outside the function. So that will also refresh your memories of how we have to define a function. We can declare a function inside and define it outside the class. So the return type comes first. Return type is MyComplex. And then we have the class name. Okay, we have the class name. And then scope resolution operator telling us that we are defining a function that is part of this class, that is basically within the scope of this class, and then we give the function name. Here the function name is operator plus, and then we give it the function arguments. So in this case, as we said, we have only one argument, and we can name it anything. We can name it anything, but as I said, let us name it RHS. So what happens is, when we add these two complex numbers on line number 48, C1 plus C2, the compiler will do the same thing. It will first look for a plus operator overload for complex type inside its built-in functionality. It will not find one. Right? So then it will see, has the user defined any overloaded operator plus for my complex type? So here it will basically find this implementation. We have basically commented this old implementation. So it will find this implementation. And this implementation is taking only one argument. So what happens here is that the compiler will see that, okay, this is part of the class, my complex, and what it will do is it will basically call this function operator plus for this plus operator for the left-hand operand. Okay. So you know the member function has to be called through an object. We can't call a member function without any object. Okay. So it will call the member function of this left-hand operand C1 and basically pass it the right-hand operand C2. Okay, so that's why we have only one argument here. RHS stands for right-hand side. So when declared as a member function, this will be called for the left-hand operand. Okay, so it will call for the left-hand operand, so it will already have access to, it's a member function for this class my complex, and it will be called for this object C1. So it will already have access to the real and imaginary, the private members of C1. But this member function will need access to the data of C2. So C2 will be passed to it as an argument. Okay, so that's why this function has only one argument called RHS. So C2 will be passed to it as a second argument. And then basically once this member function has access to both the private members of C1 as well as C2, it can do the operation and return the result. Okay. So let me write it here in comments. Basically this function is equal to C3 is equal to C1 dot operator plus, it's a function name. Okay, so we can call it like this also and pass it C2. Okay, so this line number 48, this call C3 is equal to C1 plus C2. It is exactly equal to this comment C3 is equal to C1 dot operator plus and C2. Okay, and this is also valid syntax. The comment part, you can call it like this also. Okay. So it will be, the function will be called for the left-hand operand and the right-hand operand will be passed to it as an argument. That is why when we define it as a member function, we give it as only one argument. Okay, because the left-hand operand is already there for which this function is being called. So once we have this function, we can basically copy paste this. We can have to adjust it because there is no argument A. It is being called for the object C2. So C2's real part, the left-hand side's real part, it can directly access. And this will be RHS of real. And again, the left-hand side's imaginary part, it has already access, and the right-hand side's imaginary part is being passed to it as argument. So there you go. We have our plus operator as a member function. So here, since it's part of the class, so we do not need to define it as a friend. It's already a member function. So now this C1 plus C2, it will work again, but this time the implementation is not an external function, but a member function of class myComplex. Similarly, C4 should also work. You see, it's the same thing, but just this time, the same thing is happening. For C3, this function will be called, and for C4, this function will be called twice. Okay? But the only difference is that this time it will be called as a member function. Any question? We could also write, yes. You can also write it as C3 is equal to C2 dot operator plus and C1. Okay, that will be equal to C3 is equal to C2 plus 1. Okay, since addition, as you guys know, addition is commutative. So you can do it either C1 plus C2 or C2 plus C1. It will always give the same result. Subtraction, however, is not commutative. So in subtraction, you would have to basically decide which operand do you want to put on the left side and which operand do you want to put on the right side. Okay, questions? Okay, good question. So C4 is equal to C1, how does it work now? Okay. So just so here basically we are saying that the C1 plus C2 plus C3, let me put line number. The plus operator is being used twice. Okay, so again this function will be called twice. Okay? So what will happen is, again, I think it's right associative, so it will start from the right. So first it will be called for these two arguments, C2 plus C3. C2 is the left hand side argument and C3 is the right hand side argument. Okay? So this function will be called for the object C2, C2 dot operator plus, and C3 will be passed as an argument, the RHS argument. Okay? So it will perform the addition between C2 real imaginary parts and C3 real imaginary parts and return the result. Instead of the highlighting part, it will return the result of sum of C2 plus C3. Okay? Now, once the result is returned, this function will be called again here for this operator, and for this operator the left hand side is C1 and the right hand side is basically the complex number result that has been returned by the previous call to what's it called, plus operator. So the result of the previous call will be the second argument and will be passed as an argument to the member function of C1, the left hand side, because it will be the member function of C1 which will be called, and the result here, which is the right hand argument, it will be passed as argument to this function here on line number 23. In RHS, basically in the second call, we will receive the result of the previous call to operator plus. So the second time it will be called, it will basically add the real and imaginary parts of C1 to the real and imaginary parts of the result that was returned by the previous call to plus operator, and then it will return a second result. The second result will basically replace this whole thing and it will be assigned to C4. Okay? So if we want to write it like this, then it will be like this. C4 is equal to C1 dot operator plus, and inside it will receive the result of C2 dot operator plus and C3. There you go. Okay, is it clear? Which previous case? I think addition works from right to left. We can basically confirm it. We can confirm it. Non-member. No. The behavior is same. The behavior basically is the associativity of that operator. The associativity of that operator has already been defined for all types at the, in the C++ standard. Okay. So the associativity we cannot change. What we can do is we can change the behavior or the implementation of that function, that operator. Okay? So whether you define it as a member function or as a non-member function, the associativity, meaning whether it goes from left to right or right to left, that will remain the same. When you chain that operator, I'm talking about chaining that operator like this, C1 plus C2 plus C3 plus C4 plus C5. So the associativity is already defined, and I think it's right to left. But I think sometimes our memory plays tricks on us. So what we can do is we can basically verify this associativity by calling here, this not this one, sorry, this one. We can basically, before we can RHS.show, right? And then we can basically comment this line just to make sure that we do not get any cluttering of the screen. So we have only two lines, this C1 plus C2, C3, and then C4.show. So here, this plus operator on line number 23, it will be called twice. Okay, so every time its right-hand side operand will be basically passed to the function, and we are printing the right-hand side. So we'll, by knowing the value of the argument that is being passed to this operator, we'll know whether it's going from left to right or right to left. Right to left. So let's show it. Okay, so the last line we can ignore it. This is basically C4.show, and here we have 4 plus 5 and 0 plus 0. So this means that the right hand side operator, let me open it side by side. Okay, it's called my complex. Okay. So here basically, first it has printed 4 plus 5. 4, 5, this is C2. So yes, I'm sorry, I was wrong. And here it has first called for C1 plus C2, because this function will be called for C1, the left hand side, and the right hand side C2 will be passed to it as argument. Okay, so when you print the right hand side, it basically gives us this 4 plus 5i, which is the value of C2. So it starts moving from here. First C1 plus C2 is done. Okay. So C1 plus C2, and then this will return the result of the sum of C1 plus C2. Okay. So this result will basically move, be the left hand side argument for this function, this call to operator plus. Okay. And since this function operator plus will be called for the left hand side, so it will be called for this result operator. Okay, so this operator plus will be called for the second time. It will be called for the object that was returned by the first call to operator plus as a result, and then C3 will be passed to it as argument, because C3 is the right hand side. So that's why, since C3 is 0, 0, it gives us this 0, 0 as argument. Okay, so I'm sorry, I basically misguided you. So we can verify it if we basically make it this 1, 1 just to see. Just to confirm this thing. Let's call my complex. Yes, you see, first does C1 plus C2, so it prints C2. Okay. The function is called for C1 and C2 is passed as right hand side argument. And then the function is called for the result that was returned by the sum of these two complex numbers, the object that was returned by the first call to operator plus. For that object, that member function will be called operator plus, and C3 is passed to it as argument, right hand side argument. So the second call will print this 1 plus 1i, which is the value of C3. So very good, Alishba, for asking the question. That clarified some things for us. Was this explanation clear, or it, confused you guys? Okay. To others, do you guys have any confusions, questions? No questions? Okay, good. So basically, today we studied how to overload binary operators in C++. Okay, so binary operators is plus, minus, multiply, divide. Now you can overload them for your new types. There are a host of other operators that we can overload, and some of them we'll discuss in the next class, and the others you can basically do it on your own. We can basically see a list of operators that can be overloaded in C++. So let me give you an idea. I'll unshare this screen and share this screen. So this one is a link that I already posted for the Microsoft about precedence and associativity, and we basically so when you go here, these programmers geeks tutorial point, you leave them alone, and we can go here directly to the C++ reference. Okay. A more heavyweight. Okay, so you can basically overload any of these operators. You see, you have these plus, minus, multiply, divide. Let me zoom in. Plus, minus, multiply, divide, modulo, XOR, and bitwise and, bitwise or, bitwise not, logical not, assignment operator, less than, greater than, plus equal to, minus equal to, multiply equal to, divide equal to, tick, 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 etc. This left shift, right shift, okay. This equality operator, not equality operator, less than equal to, greater than equal to, and this is a new operator in C++20 we won't study that. These are also operators that we'll, yeah, this we have studied already. These are in if-else, when we combine different conditions, okay. So we can overload these operators also. A logical and a logical, and I don't know what it's called, logical or something. So then there are unary operators, plus, plus, minus, minus. We can overload those operators also. Okay, we'll see in the next class. And then you have this comma operator, this arrow operator. Even these parentheses and these square brackets for the arrays, they are also operators. Okay? So they are also operators that you can overload. So we can, apart from the binary operators, in the next class we will see a few more operators to overload. We'll see these binary operators, and then perhaps this square operator. We'll see. So you can, I mean, for the binary operators, you can try overloading other operators. Acha. The only colon that we are interested are the double points, the scope resolution operator, etc. Any other things you can take it up outside the class. Any other question? Who has their hand raised? Yes, Uzair, you want to say something?
Yes, sir. So what about the assignment? We haven't received any assignment since a long time.
Yeah, sorry. I've been busy. I mean, so I mean, delayed. So I'll try to give you an assignment soon.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Tomorrow or this weekend. Any other question? No? Okay. So practice this overloading with new types on your own, and we'll continue this topic in the next class. Okay? Assignments are easy. I mean, so far. Okay. So if there are no more questions, then thank you very much. And let me take your attendance. Okay, so I think Osman's time is up. So we will see each other next week, I think, in the next class. By the way, we are missing, I think, one class. So you guys can decide with your CR when do you want to have that makeup class, so that we can basically be up to date with the labs and everything. So CR, kindly have a discussion with your class,
Yes,
and then
sir.
tell me when do you want to make up that class. Yeah. We have missed one class, so for that we have to make up.
Okay, sir.
So okay, so thank you very much. I'll stop the recording. Have a nice weekend.